Today's gospel question was, who makes you mad? Interestingly enough, the accurate answer to the question, who makes you mad, is you do. You make yourself mad. In today's gospel, Jesus tells us that what matters is what comes from within a person, not from without. The Pharisees with whom Jesus is debating are big on the things that come from the outside, on following the law out there or all the external rituals. Now, there is an importance to rules and rituals, and Jesus does not dispute that. Of course, we teach our children to brush their teeth, go to church, wear their seatbelts, keep the golden rule. All of that is important and good, and Jesus says, keep doing that. But today is one of those times he says as clearly as he can that that is not enough. That you and I can keep the rules and rituals and still have a heart that is so far from what it is meant to be. There has to be inner work, inner holiness, inner change, inner goodness. Otherwise, our rule keeping and our rituals while finding themselves, mean nothing. Let's talk first about the outside part. As we walk through our lives, and you know this, there's that which is out there, right? The events and experiences of our days. We all know that there are some that we can control and that we choose, and that others come unbidden. Some are predictable, some are surprising, some are pleasant, some are not. That's the outside, right? Now the inside part. The events and encounters of our lives yield a mixture of emotions. Everything from being relieved to feeling affection, from being angry to being so grateful we could cry, feeling scared, joyful, lonely, the whole rich panoply of emotions God has given human beings. All of that leads to the decisions we make, and that's the inside part. And today, Jesus focuses us on what happens between those two. What comes between the experiences we have and the feelings and decisions that result. Now, use whatever word for this you want. Our worldview, our attitude, how we talk to ourselves, our life stances. But this is what is important. And how we form these in ourselves is crucial inner work. Because this is what determines how we will respond in our lives. This, more than what happens to us, is what decides the kind of persons we are and will continue to become. These mindsets, these approaches, these attitudes were started in us when we were young. The values, the attitudes we absorb at home or at school, in the neighborhood, at church. They'll always be in here somewhere. But as we grow, we are called to evaluate them, right? Take responsibility for them because they so greatly affect how we feel and how we will act. Probably I do, you probably do, these sentences that tend to just play and replay in our heads, especially if we grew up with any trauma or dysfunction in our homes. Thoughts that kind of helped us cope then, which were helpful, but most often they now get in the way as we get older. get a way of us being more alive and free. And this is where we can and must do our work. Because sometimes people tell me, I can't help what I feel. To which I say eventually, yes, you can. And yes, you must. I mean, at least over time. I mean, in the moment, we just name what we feel. There's no shame in it, but and our emotions are a great gift because they help us become aware of the attitudes, of how we process stuff, of our worldview, of who we are that yields all this stuff, right? So we name it and then decide, like, if I feel this when this happens, do I need to rethink some things? Or maybe, is this how I really want to be? Or could I be a little more free of this knee-jerk reaction? For example, if one of my attitudes is, whether I'm aware of it or not, and I don't think most people would always name these quite like this, but it's somewhere in there, unless I am perfect, I won't be loved. Well, I'll be affected in various circumstances. Say it's my turn to read the report at school. I'll be scared to death, and I'll be more likely to, if I'm old enough, call in sick or quit school. Instead, I'm invited to work on that attitude. What if, with the help of the Holy Spirit and good coaching, I began to think this way and develop this as a mindset? While it is good to try my best, everyone is imperfect, and that's okay. Now, I'll probably still be nervous when it's my turn, but watch, my head won't blow up. I'll be fine. And this is where the thinking comes in, right? I don't write somebody else off as useless if I wasn't impressed by their presentation. Why would I presume that they would do that to me, right? And even if it doesn't go so well, and I get this because I have this one, right? I'm still good. I'm still loved. Right. Another example. I could give you thousands. I won't bore you with that. I'll just give you the second one. Perhaps we would all do well to ask if there is some version of this in us, a kind of unspoken assumptions. The world is responsible for my happiness. Or no one would say they think this, but it's kind of all about me in the end life stance. Because if so, and I order French fries at the drive-thru and I get onion rings, there's going to be heck to pay. And because I have every right to be angry and hostile because the world exists to make me happy and you are failing. Okay. In reality, I am the one making myself angry. Maybe instead, could I nurture this mindset? I am richly blessed. I mean, in this case, I have food. I'm not fleeing for my life. And most of my aggravations are just small things. I'm still aggravated, but it's not that big of a deal. I don't need to respond with that much vehemence. I regularly remind myself, my problems are small, and my blessings are countless. And you know why I regularly remind myself of that? Because it's true. And sometimes, some stressful days I need to remind myself that, but it is true. My goodness, in light of the horrific sufferings in Haiti, in Afghanistan, could we maybe choose to keep a little more perspective? Jesus does count on us to always be about the work of forming and reforming our attitudes by what we read, the social media sites we follow, the news channels we watch, the people we hang with, the way we worship, how we train ourselves to think. To Jesus, this is one of our key moral responsibilities. Because in his day, he ran into a lot of people who did the outside part very well, but not this inside part. And he could run into a lot of those people today, and even if we're not careful, here. Because the reality is, we're all going to have times when we are surprisingly blessed and times when life is unfair. We'll all have times when things go well and when they don't. We'll all have sickness and in health. How we react is our most important work. So, this is true for me as it is for you. The answer to the question, who makes you mad? You do. The answer to the question, who makes you happy? You do. And one of the most important things of all is what happens inside of us, between those things that come from what's out there and how we choose to respond. That is what makes all the difference.